Shalom, 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 everybody. How y'all doing? Welcome back to the next episode of Reading with SHILO, baby. This is part five of the sea of pages that has been laid to us by Mr. C.L.R. James, the Black Jacobins, the Toussaint Louverture, and the San Domingo Revolution. Man, we out here. What up? What up? So what's the business with y'all today? Oh, it's cold out here. Well, it's getting colder. It's getting colder, man. I hope y'all safe wherever y'all at. I hope y'all safe wherever y'all at. Yeah. If anybody find this bag, they know it's mine because it says SHILO shit. What's the business, man? We are here for another one, and another one. I'm ready to go. I know I've been gone the last couple of days, man. It's been trying to get shit together, man. Been trying to get shit together. So we can keep making moves out here. Oh, man. I don't know what you came to do, but I came to roll and read, baby. We came to push through and persevere because we have all that we need to succeed. And you have all that you need to succeed. So all we have to do is do so. Do so. So when you come in, for those who come in, man, like, comment, subscribe, share. Tell your people SHILO out here reading shit, man. Hit the chat. Let me know the chat working, you know. And we're going to move through. We're going to push through and see how far can we go, pick up where we left off before. I got the Terminator closed just in case we need it for any what's the word? For any definitions. Any definitions or any words that I don't know, man, I'm going to look them up. I'm going to look them up, whether by Terminator or by dictionary. I prefer the dictionary first, but some words I know not going to be in there. If there's some words I don't know how to pronounce, man, I'm going to look them up too. Or if I think I'm pronouncing them wrong, we're going to look them up. I'm going to look them up, or try to look them up, see if they have anything, you know, available for us so we could go off of and go from there. But the Black Jacobins, man, so far so good, man. So far so good. Oh, man, it was doing my people dirty. And it was fighting back, man. The mulattoes and the free slaves and the so-called African slaves were fighting back. Shalom, 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 pigeon. They were fighting back against the owners, trying to free themselves, emancipate themselves, and some of them was manumitted here and there. But it was a long, long battle, a long uphill battle. But before we jump into the book, before we jump into this reading session or this rowing session today, man, we got to get our routine done out the way, man. Cool or not, cool or not. Shalom, y'all lover. Cold or not, we got to get our routine down. We got to get our routine down. Work our body, work our mind, and work our body. Man, that's what we're going to do. So I need 25 things, man. 25 things. 25 things from y'all. And I'm going to do 25 things. Maybe 50, it depends. We're going to see how I'm feeling right now this morning. But 25 things, man, so we get our body moving. Build a better habit. Build a better us. Build better minds. That's what we're trying to do, man. We're trying to do that. And it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some consistency, some get it done. So we got to get it done, man. So whatever you're going to do, 25 things. Man, I'm going to do this shit I've been seeing this old Kung Fu master do. I'm going to get my Shaolin monk on this morning, man. So, but we're going to do 25 something, whatever it is. Just get off your ass. Get off your ass and do something. And if you can't get off your ass, just move your ass. Side to side, up and down, up. Do something, do something, do something, do something. This might be the push you need to progress you. This might be the push you want. This might be the push you can use. Shit. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Get up. Get on up. And do something. 25 something. 25 of them. I'm going to do 25. Man, you tighten my shit up now. All right, let's get it, man. Make sure I'm out the way. All right. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 25. I'll go ahead and give you 25 push-ups too. Let's add on to it. Let's add on to it. 25 things. And since I'm the captain of the ship, babe, I'm gonna give you 50. Captain always gotta do a little more. Captain always gotta do a little more. Captain Blackbeard. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25. There we go. That's enough. Bye, y'all. I did me. I hope you did you. I did me. I hope you did you. 25 things. That's all I asked of you. That's all I asked of you, man. If you can't do 25 things, something wrong. 25, clap your hands. Clap your hands. Clap your hands. 25 of them. Let's get it. Let's get it. Now we done worked our body. Let's work our mind. We done worked our body. Let's work our mind. So we're in chapter 2 of the book. We are in chapter 2. Let me catch my little breath before we jumpstart the rowing. We're in chapter 2 called The Owners. The Owners, we got quite a few pages left to go into chapter 2 before we reach chapter 3. It's supposed to be at least 2 sessions. About 2 sessions. We'll read for about an hour. We're going to read for about an hour and see what Mr. C.L.R. James has to say. Well, we'll see. Maybe I could get to it. We got about that much before we get to chapter 3. Chapter 3 is called Parliament and Property. Parliament and Property. But we'll wait till we get to that later. Let's go. Chapter 2, The Owners. The Owners in Part 5, The Black Jacobins, Toussaint Louverture and the San Domingo Revolution by C.L.R. James. I really love the cover, man. They did a good job on the cover. The way it feels, the way it looks. They did a great job on the cover. I kind of wish it was a hardback. I wish it was a hardback. But all in all, I like that. I like the cover. Look at that, man. Look at that copper color man right there. That's probably Toussaint. Toussaint. Look at the island. Oh, I like it. I like it. Chapter 2, The Owners. Pick up where we left off. Whew. This was no cantankerous croak from a jealous colonist. It was an official memorandum from the bureaucracy to the minister. And increasing numbers and increasing wealth were giving the mulattoes greater pride and sharpening their resentment against the humiliations. Some of them were sending their children to France to be educated, and in France, even 100 years before the Revolution, there was little color prejudice. And up to 1716, every Negro slave who touched French soil was free. And after the interval of 50 years, another decree in 1762 reaffirmed this. In 1739, a slave served as trumpeter in the Royal Regiment of Carabiners, and young mulattoes were received in a military corps reserved to the young nobility and of the offices of the magistracy. They served as pages at court, yet These men had to go back to San Domingo and submit to the discriminations and brutality of the San Domingo whites. And as the mulattoes began to press against the barriers, white San Domingos passed a series of laws which, for maniacal savagery, are unique in the modern world. And we would have to say it up to 1933, not likely to be paralleled again in history. The Council of Port-au-Prince, holding up the race question as a screen, wanted to exterminate them, and thus the whites could purge their system of a growing menace and get rid of the men from whom they had borrowed money and seize much fine property. The council proposed to banish all the half-castes up to the degree of the quatern to the mountains, which they would bring into cultivation, to forbid the sale of all property on the plains to half-castes, to deny them the right of acquiring any house property, to force all those up to the decree or to the degree of quatron, and all those whites who had married people of color to that degree, to sell all their slaves within a year. And for, said the council, these are dangerous people and more friendly to the slaves to whom they are still attached than to us who oppress them by the subordination which we demand and the scorn with which we treat them. In a revolution, in a moment of tension, they would be the first to break the yoke which weighed on them, and the more because they are richer and now accustomed to have white debtors, since when they had no longer have sufficient respect for us. But the colonists could not carry out these sweeping plans, and mulattoes, unlike the German Jews, were already too numerous, and the revolution would have begun there and then. The colonists had to content themselves with throwing on these rivals every humiliation that ingenuity and malice could devise. And between 1758 and the Revolution, the persecutions mounted. The mulattoes were forbidden to wear swords and sabers and European dress. They were forbidden to buy ammunition except by special permission with the exact quantity stated. And they were forbidden to meet together on the pretext of weddings, feasts, or dances, under penalty of a fine for the first offense and imprisonment for the next, and worse to follow. They are forbidden to stay in France, and they were forbidden to play European games. No London Bridge is falling down for you, nigga. Oh, shit. The priests were forbidden to draw up any documents for them. And in 1781, 8 years before the Revolution, they were forbidden to take the titles of Monsieur and Madame. And up to 1791, if a white man ate in their house, they could not sit at the table with him. The only privilege the whites allowed them was the privilege of lending whites money. I bet. Short of insurrection, there was no way out of this. And until the Bastille fell, the efforts of the mulattoes to emancipate themselves assumed strange forms. De Versière has unearthed a story, which we can understand better after Hitlerism than we could have done before. And in 1771, the Sieur Sapezet had obtained from the Council of Le Cap a decree which gave him the privileges of a white man. His obscure career preventing any questions began raised about his origin, and a little later he attempted to become an officer in the militia. 4 lieutenants in the militia of the Northern Plain made minute researches in the records and presented an exact genealogy of the Sapezet family, and proving that the material ancestor 150 years back was a Negro from St. Kitts. De Sapezet defended himself in law, and in fact in law because the power of deciding on the status of a citizen was the prerogative of the government and not of private individuals. And in fact, because in 1624 there were no Negroes in St. Kitts, colonial history was now the terrain. With extracts from the historians, the whites prove that there were slaves in St. Kitts in 1624, and Chapazette admitted defeat and left from France. 3 years after, he returned, calling himself M. Chapazette de Gerin, or familiarly M. Le Gerin. The aristocrat, at least in name, by means of a sponsor, he again brought his case for being considered a white man before the courts. And once more he was defeated. But Chapazette was a man of resource. He claimed that his ancestor, or this ancestor, the St. Kitts Negro, was no Negro, but a Carib, a freeborn Carib, a member of that noble race on whom the French and Spaniards had imposed the law of conquest. And Chapazette triumphed. And in 1779, two decrees of the council declared that his claim was justified. But he did not get his rank. The local officials dared not appoint him. And following the publications of the decrees, the people of color abandoned themselves to such demonstrations of joy and foolish hopes that the consequences of Chapazette's appointment might have been very dangerous. The doors of Chapazette's lawyers were besieged with quadroons and other fair-skinned mulattoes seeking to have their remote slave ancestors transformed into free and noble Caribs. And the mulattoes, who so bitterly resented the same thing from the whites, and black slaves and mulattoes hated each other, even while in words and by their success in life and many of their actions, mulattoes demonstrated the falseness of the white claim to inherit superiority. Yet the man or a man of color who was nearly white despised a man of color who was only half white, who in turn despised a man of color who was only quarter white, and so on through all the shades. The free blacks, comparatively speaking, were not many, and so despised was the black skin that even a mulatto slave felt himself superior to the free black man. The mulatto, rather than be slave to a black, would have killed himself. It all reads like a cross between a nightmare and a bad joke. But these distinctions still exercise their influence in the West Indies today. Yeah, the Willie Lynch letters. That's what it sounds like. While whites in Britain disliked the half-caste more than the full-blooded Negro, whites in the West Indies favor the half-caste against the blacks. And these, however, are matters of social prestige. But the racial discriminations in Africa today are, as they were in San Domingo, matters of government policy and enforced by bullets and bayonets. And we have lived to see the rulers of the European nation make a Aryan grandmother as precious for the fellow countrymen as the Carib ancestor was to the mulatto. The cause in each case is the same: the justification of plunder by any obvious differentiation for those holding power. It is as well to remind the reader that a trained observer traveling in the West Indies in 1935 says of the colored men there, a few at the top, judges, baristas, doctors, whatever their shade of color, could hold their own in a circle, in any circle. And a great many more are the intellectual equals or superiors of their own white contemporaries. Many of the mulattoes and free blacks were backwards in comparison to the whites, but their capacity was perfectly obvious in San Domingo. And in the years before 1789, it took gunpowder and cold steel to convince the San Domingo whites. And if, as we have seen, the most intelligent of them did not delude themselves about the materialistic origins of their prejudice against the mulattoes, we yet will make a great mistake if we think that they were hypocrites when they claimed that a white skin guaranteed to the owner superior abilities and entitled him to a monopoly of the best that the colony afforded. Upon the different forms of property, upon the social conditions of existence as foundation, there is built a superstructure of diversified and characteristic sentiments and illusions, habits of thought, and outlooks on life in general. The class as a whole creates and shapes them out of its material foundation and out of the corresponding social relationships. The individual of whom they arise through tradition and education may fancy them to be the true determinants, the real origin of his activities, and on this common derivation, of prejudice, small whites and big whites and bureaucracy were united against mulattoes. It had been so for 150 years, and therefore it would always be so. But would it? The higher bureaucrats, cultivated Frenchmen, arrived in the islands without prejudice and looking for mass support used the help of the mulattoes a little. And the mulattoes and the big whites had a common bond, property. And once the revelation was well underway, the big whites would have to choose between their allies of race and their allies of property. They would not hesitate long. Such was the society of this famous colony, and these were the people, and this the life, for whom in part so much blood was shed and so much suffering borne. And the best minds of the time had no illusions about it. And Baron de Wimpfen, who saw the colony in 1790 at the very summit of its prosperity, one day saw a slave leaning on the handle of his hoe, looking sadly into the sunset. "What are you doing, Nazimbo?" he asked. "What are you looking at?" Nazimbo extended his hand toward the setting sun. "I see my own country," he replied, and tears rolled from his eyes. "I saw my own country there also," said de Wimpfen to himself, "and I have the hope of seeing it again one day. But you, poor Negro, will never see yours again." Educated, liberal, and common slave alike detested the place. And a few months later, de Wimpfen left and put his opinion on record. It is a fitting epitaph of that society which within 3 years was to be destroyed. Do you wish to know my final word on this country? It is that the more I get to know the men who inhabit it, the more I congratulate myself on leaving it. And when one is what the greater part of the planters are, one is born to own slaves. When one is the greater part of what the slaves are, one is born to be a slave. And in this country, everybody is in his place. Prosperity is not the morale or the moral question, and the justification of San Domingo was its prosperity. Never for centuries had the Western world known such economic progress, and by 1754, 2 years before the beginning of the 7 Years' War, there were 599 plantations of sugar and 3,379 of indigo. And during the 7 Years' War from 1756 to 1763, the French Marine, swept off the sea by the British Navy, could not bring the supplies on which the colony depended. The extensive smuggling trade could not supply the deficiency, and thousands of slaves died from starvation, and the upward rise of production, though not halted, was diminished. But after the Treaty of Paris in 1763, the colony made a great stride forward. And in 1767, it exported 72 million pounds weight of raw sugar and 51 million pounds of white, 1 million pounds of indigo, and 2 million pounds of cotton, and quantities of hides, molasses, cocoa, and rum. And smuggling, which was winked at by the authorities, raised the official figures by at least 25%. Nor was it only in quantity that San Domingo excelled, but in quality. Each coffee tree produced, on an average, a pound weight, equal sometimes to that of mocha. And cotton grew naturally, even without care, in stony ground and in the crevices of the rocks. Indigo also grew spontaneously, and tobacco had a larger leaf than in any other part of the Americas, and sometimes equaled in quality the produce of Havana. The kernel of San Domingo cocoa was much acidulated than that of Venezuela. Let's see what that is. Acidulated. Acidulated. Is it acidulated? Acidulated. Acidulated. That's how I'm gonna pronounce it right now. Acidulated. ACID is ULATED. Acidulated. Let me look in the let me see what the terminator is talking about. Acidulated pronunciation. Not regulated. Acidulated.
Here's the definition of assimilate.
No, sucker. Acidulated.
Acidulated.
I was correct. Acidulated. Slightly acidic. Use of acidulated fertilizers can lead to long-term soil degradation. Acidulated. The kernel of San Domingo cocoa was more acidulated than that of Venezuela. It was more acidic. It was more acidic. And was not inferior in other respects. An experience proving that the chocolate made of the two cocoas in combination had a more delicate flavor than that made from the cocoa of Venezuela alone. If on no earthly spot was so much misery concentrated as on a slave ship, there on no portion of the globe did its surface in proportion to its dimensions yield so much wealth as the colony of San Domingo. And yet, it was their very prosperity which would lead to the revolution. And from the beginning, the colonists were at variance with the French government and the interests it represented. The French, like every other government in those days, looked upon colonies as existing exclusively for the profit of the metropolis. And known as the mercantile system in England, the French called this economic tyranny by a more honest name, the exclusive. Whatever manufactured goods the colonists needed, they were compelled to buy from France, and they could sell their produce only to France. And the goods were to be transported only in French ships, and even the raw sugar produced in the colonies was to be refined in the mother country. And the French imposed heavy duties on refining sugars on colonial origin. The colonies, said Colbert, are founded by and for the metropolis. This was not true, and the colonists had founded San Domingo themselves, and the falsehood of the claim made the exploitation all the harder to bear. In 1664, the French government, in accordance with the custom of those days, handed over the rights of trade with San Domingo to a private company. But the monopolists either could not or would not send out all the goods that the colonists wanted and charged them nearly twice as much as they were accustomed to pay. And the colonists revolted, and the governor was compelled to ease the restrictions. And in 1722, the same thing happened. Agents received from the company and the exclusive grant of the African trade in return for supplying San Domingo with 2,000 Negroes every year. Man. And I think they said a Negro, a slave, was worth $5,900. $5,900 would be about $6,000 our money today. But by 1720, the colonists were needing 8,000 slaves a year. Pooh-wee. Let's look that up. 8,000 times 6,000. Man. $8,000 times 6,000. 4,800,000. Oh, my bad. Oh, I'm off. I am off. 48 million. $48 million. $48 million for 8,000 slaves a year. 48 million. They was paying whoever. They was paying whoever. I don't know who they was paying it to. Maybe some to the French. Maybe it was the French or whatever. So, man, 8,000 slaves at $6,000 a piece. Woo-woo. But by 1720, the colonists were needing 8,000 slaves a year. And they knew that in addition to supplying them with only 1/4 of their needs, the company would raise the price. And there was another insurrection. The colonists arrested the governor and put him in prison. And the government had to modify the privileges of the company. The colonists saw themselves held in check by the exclusive for the benefit of the metropolis. And as their prosperity grew, they found the restrictions more and more intolerable. Man. Political dependence on the mother country was now retarding the economic growth of San Domingo, and the colonists wished to shake off these shackles as, yes, sir, as Britons, Americans. Oh, I felt your back crack. Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Are you doing all right with your work? Do you need any help?
No, sir.
All right. If you need help, bring your paper back here, and I'll read it and see what it is. All right?
Okay.
All right. The colonists wished to shake off these shackles as Britain's American colonies were to shake off theirs. Excuse me. Ooh, excuse me. Thus, if big whites and small whites were in permanent conflict with each other, they were united against the mulattoes on the one hand and against the French bourgeoisie on the other. They could persecute the mulattoes, but against the French bourgeoisie, they could do nothing but rage. And long before 1789, the French bourgeoisie was the most powerful economic force in France. And in the slave trade and the colonies were the basis of its wealth and power. Now, the slave trade and slavery were the economic basis of the French Revolution. And sad irony of human history, comments Jalis. And the fortunes created at Bordeaux, at Nantes, and by the slave trade got to the bourgeoisie that pride which needed liberty and contributed to human emancipation. Now, Nantes was the center of the slave trade. As early as 1666, 108 ships were at the coast of Guyana and took on board 37,430 slaves. Let's see if I'm pronouncing that name right, Nantes. Or Nantes. Is it Nantes? It might be Nantes. It might be pronounced Nantes. 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 Nantes.
Nantes.
How do French say not? There we go. Let's see that. See this humbug. Shut your. Nantes. 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 Nantes was the center of the slave trade. And as early as 1666, 108 ships went to the coast of Guyana and took on board 37,430 slaves, to a total value of more than 37 million, giving the Nantes bourgeoisie 15 to 20% of their money. And in 1700, Nantes was sending 50 ships a year to the West Indies with Irish salt beef, linen from the household and linen for the household and for clothing the slaves, and machinery for sugar mills. And nearly all the industries which developed in France during the 18th century had their origin in goods and commodities destined either for the coast of Guyana or for America. The capital from the slave trade fertilized them. Though the bourgeoisie traded in other things than slaves, upon the success or failure of the traffic, everything else depended. And some ships took on the way of wine from Madeira for the colonists, and dried turtle from Cape Verde for the slaves. They gonna get wine and we gonna get turtle. As you would think that these so-say Christian places would feed these people the things that are unchristian like. You ain't supposed to eat turtle. Christ wouldn't eat turtle. It wouldn't be in the dietary laws. And turtle and dried turtle from Cape Verde for the slave. In return, they brought back colonial produce to Nantes, whence Dutch vessels took it to northern Europe. And some made the return journey by way of Spain and Portugal, exchanging their colonial cargo for the products of those countries. 60 ships from Rochelle and Oberon brought their salted cod to Nantes, and to go to the inland market or out of the colonies to feed the slaves. And the year 1758 saw the first manufacture of Indian cloth, to weave the raw cotton of India and the West Indian islands. The planters, The planters and small manufacturers of San Domingo were able to establish themselves only by means of the capital advanced by the maritime bourgeoisie. And by 1789, the Nantes merchants alone had 50 million invested in the West Indies. And Bordeaux had begun with the wine industry, which gave its shipbuilders and navigators an opportunity to trade all over the world. And then came brandy, also to all ports, but above all to the colonies. Bordeaux wine.
According to Wikipedia, Bordeaux wine is produced in the Bordeaux region of southwest France, around the city of Bordeaux, on the Garonne River.
And this slave trade wine is still in effect today. This slave trade wine is still in effect today. How many of y'all drink this slave trade wine? Bordeaux. What is the Bordeaux? Why is Bordeaux wine so special? Bordeaux wine is special because of its unique climate, soil, and winemaking traditions. These factors allow for a wide range of wines, from bold reds to sweet dessert wines. I wouldn't know. I don't drink wine like that. I never found it's only been one good wine that I've ever tasted, and I never found out the name. I tasted it at one Passover. It was some guy like, oh no, that's some good wine. Bordeaux wine. Now, Bordeaux had begun with the wine industry, which gave its shipbuilders and navigators an opportunity to trade all over the world. And then came brandy, and also to all ports, but above all to the colonies. And by the middle of the 18th century, 16 factories refined 10,000 tons of raw sugar from San Domingo every year, using nearly 4,000 tons of charcoal. And local factories supplied the town with jars, dishes, and bottles. And the trade was cosmopolitan. Flemings, Germans, Dutchmen, Irishmen, and Englishmen came to live in Bordeaux, contributing to the general expansion and amassing riches for themselves. And Bordeaux traded with Holland, Germany, Portugal, Venice, and Ireland. But slavery and the other colonial trade were the font and origin of the sustenance of this thriving industry and for far-flung commerce. Marseilles was the great center of the Mediterranean and Eastern trade, and a royal decree at the beginning of the century had attempted to exclude it from the trade with the colonies, and the attempt failed, and San Domingo was a special center of the Marseilles trade. Marseilles sent there not only the wines of Provence. In 1789, there were in Marseilles 12 sugar refineries, and nearly as many as in Bordeaux. In the early years, most of this trade had been carried in foreign-built and foreign-owned ships. That made me think about all the shit people trying to boycott today. All the shit people trying to boycott. Why don't you boycott these things? These things that first started making their money off of the slave trade and still make their money today off of the similar stuff. You know, Bordeaux being one of them. Since you want to be so blackety black. Keep your black ass over there. Since you want to boycott everything. Boycott that wine. Don't buy wine from nowhere. Unless wine is made by black-owned businesses here or where you are locally, wherever you are locally. How about that? How about that? Mm-hmm. In the early years, most of its trade has been carried in foreign-built or foreign-owned ships. But by 1730, the maritime bourgeois began to build themselves. And in 1778, Bordeaux ship owners constructed 7 vessels. And in 1784, they constructed 32, with a total of 115 for the 6 years. A Marseilles ship owner, Georges Roux, could fit out a fleet on his own account in order to take vengeance on the English fleet for the prizes it had taken. And Nantes, Bordeaux, and Marseilles were the chief centers of the maritime bourgeoisie, but Orleans, Dieppe, Bercy-Paris, a dozen great towns refined raw sugar and shared in the subsidiary industries. And a large part of the hides worked in France came from San Domingo. The flourishing cotton industry of Normandy drew in raw cotton and part of the West Indies, in part from the West Indies. And in all its ramifications, the cotton trade occupied the population of more than 100 French towns. In 1789, exchanges with the American colonies were 296 million. And French exported to the islands 78 millions of flour, salted meats, wines, and stuffs. The colonies sent to France 118 millions of sugar, coffee, cocoa, wood, indigo, and hides. And of the 218 millions imported, only 71 millions were consumed in France. The rest was exported after preparation. The total value of the colonies represented 3,000 millions, and on them depended the livelihood and a number of Frenchmen, variously estimated at between 2 to 6 millions. By 1789, San Domingo was the market of the New World. It received in its ports 1,587 ships, a greater number than Marseilles, and France used for the San Domingo trade alone 750 great vessels employing 24,000 sailors. And in 1789, Britain's export trade would be 27 million pounds. That of France is 17 million pounds, of which the trade of San Domingo would account for nearly 11 million pounds. Ooh, man, that's damn near all of it, man. That is damn near all of the shit coming from San Domingo. The whole of Britain's colonial trade in that year amounted to only 5 million pounds, and the maritime bourgeoisie would not hear of any change in the exclusive. They had an ear of the minister and the government, and not only were the colonists refused permission to trade with foreign countries, but the circulation of all French currency, except the very lowest, was forbidden in the islands, lest the colonists used it to purchase foreign goods. And in such a method of trade, they were at the mercy of the bourgeoisie. In 1774, their indebtedness was 200 millions, and by 1789, it was estimated at between 300 and 500 millions. If the colonists complained of the exclusive, the bourgeoisie complained that the colonists would not pay their debts and agitated for stricter measures against the contraband. I wonder how much of this debt, being that, they try to have us live in a debt society where you have to have credit, and credit is a form of debt. How much of that old 500 million and 200 million, 300 millions debt that these people had, that these countries had, France, Germany, Britain, Portugal, most likely even, Dutch, Poland, all these places, how much of that debt has continued? How much of that debt has never been paid? How much of that debt has been passed on to us, the purchasers, or the product makers, the product senders? How much of that debt do we still have today? Rich as was the French bourgeoisie, the colonial trade was too big for it, and the British bourgeois was successful of slave trade, most successful of slave traders, sold thousands of smuggled slaves every year to the French colonists and particularly to San Domingo. But even while they sold the slaves to San Domingo, the British were watching the progress of this colony with alarm and with envy. And after the independence of America in 1783, this amazing French colony suddenly made such a leap as almost to double its production between 1783 and 1789. I wonder if that's that 7 Years' War. Almost 6 years. That's 6 years. In those years, Bordeaux alone invested 100 millions in San Domingo. And the British bourgeois, let's see how we pronounce that. Bourgeois. Is it bourgeois? Bourgeois.
Bourgeois.
That's it. Bourgeois. The British bourgeois, most successful, blah, 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 blah. I read that part away. But even while they sold their slaves to San Domingo, the British were watching the progress of this colony with alarm and with envy. And after the independence of America in 1783, this amazing French colony suddenly made such a leap as almost to double its production between 1783 and 1789. In those years, Bordeaux alone invested 100 million in San Domingo, and the British bourgeois were the great rivals of the French. And all through the 18th century, they fought. They fought in every part of the world, and the French had jumped gleefully to help bring them out of America. And San Domingo was now incomparable. There we go. Incomparable to the finest colony in the world, and its possibilities seemed limitless. The British bourgeoisie investigated the new situation in the West Indies, and on the basis of what it saw, prepared a bombshell for its rivals. Without slaves, San Domingo was doomed, and the British colonies had enough slaves for all the trade they were ever likely to do. And with the tears rolling down their cheeks for the poor suffering blacks, these British bourgeois, who had no West Indian interest, set up a great howl for the abolition of the slave trade. Oh, them niggas making too much money down there, man. We got to stop this slavery shit. It sounds to me like that's the only reason they wanted to do it, because their pockets was hurting. Their pockets was hurting. They wasn't making as much money. So we got to cripple what the money maker is. I think I'm going to stop there. Because we still have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5.5, 6 pages. 6 pages left till chapter 3. And I know I'm not going to get to it within the next, maybe 30 minutes, maybe. Oh, Lord. Maybe 30 minutes. Let's see how many pages I've read now in this hour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pages. I read 6 pages. Let me see. Let's go to the next paragraph. We'll finish off these next couple of paragraphs. We'll get to the next page. We'll get to page 52. Let's stop here. We'll read a little bit more. A venerable race of scholars, profiteering panders to national vanity, have conspired to obscure the truth about abolition. And up to 1783, the British bourgeoisie had taken the slave trade for granted. And in 1773, and again in 1774, the Jamaican Assembly, afraid of insurrection and seeking to raise revenue, taxed the importation of slaves. In great wrath, the British Board of Trade disallowed the measures and told the governor that he would be sacked if he gave his sanction to any similar bill. Well-meaning persons talked of the iniquity of slavery, and the slave trade, as well-meaning persons in 1938 talked about the native questions in Africa or the misery of the Indian peasant. Dr. Johnson toasted the next slave insurrection in the West Indies, and stray members of Parliament introduced bills for the abolition of the slave trade, which the House rejected without much bother. And in 1783, Lord North turned down the petition against the trade, and the petition did credit to the Christian feelings and to the humane breast, etc., but the trade was necessary. And with the loss of America, however, a new situation arose. The British found that by the abolition of the mercantile system with America, they gained instead of losing. And it was the first great lesson in the advantages of free trade, but If Britain gained, the British West Indies suffered, and the rising industrial bourgeoisie, feeling its way to free trade and a greater exploitation in India, began to abuse the West Indies, called them sterile rocks, and asked if the interest and independence of the nation should be sacrificed to 72,000 masters and 400,000 slaves. And we'll stop there. And that has been part 5. This has been episode 5 of Reading with Shiloh, where we have searched the sea of pages for treasures. The sea of pages Mr. C.L.R. James has laid to us in the Black Jacobins, Toussaint Louverture and the San Domingo Revolution. Man, we have been traversing this. We have been traversing the sea of pages, man, trying to make our way to the X marks the spots. The X marks the spot, which is the end of the book. And while traversing it, we are looking to expose whatever lies that have been told to us with the truths that have been hidden within the books. What truths have been hidden? What things can we take and learn and grow from? What can we apply to our lives? What can we use to help burn down and cause an insurrection and a revolt against the plantations that are within our minds? Because that's going to be some of the first things we have to do, is tear down the plantations in our mind. And while doing the tearing down, we have to rebuild with something. Something has to be rebuilt in there. Something has to be inputted in there, because you are the controller of what is inputted into this mind of yours, in this world of yours, in this nation of yours, and here of your mind. What you going to do? How you going to build it? How you going to rebuild it? Or how you going to add on? You're going to add on with a partition? You know, you're going to keep what you had and you're going to add on to it, or are you going to destroy it? Or are you going to destroy what was built there? Because it's been colonized. Your nation has been colonized. Your mind has been colonized. It is hardly anybody's mind who has not been colonized. You know, we have all, in some shape or form, for the most part, you know, especially here in the Americas, the islands, you know, West Indies, as they say, you know, a majority of our minds has been colonized. You know, from the day of our birth. From the day of our birth, our minds have been colonized. It's been day in and day out bombardment of propaganda against us. It's been day in and day out bombardment of war and deaths, and you know, definitely visuals that you'll see in your dreams. What are you going to do? Are you going to sit there and take it? Are you going to accept it? Or are you going to start the revolution that starts here with you? Are you going to start the revolution that starts with you? What you going to do? It's up to you. It's up to you. We all have a choice. We all have a choice to choose. We all have decisions to make. We all have a road to follow. We all have goals. We should. If you don't, we should. Where are you trying to get to? What is the objective? What is the goal? Do you have a plan? Sometimes it just takes get to doing. You might not have the plan all out, but sometimes it takes just start doing. Just start doing something. Start doing something. Be consistent with your doing. Repetitious with your doings. No matter what it is, whether it be reading or working out, trying to build a habit. You know, hey, it's going to take some doing. Get it done. Get it done. We have all we need to succeed. You have all you need to succeed. You have all you need to succeed. If you can think, see, talk, smell, feel, hear, walk. And even if you can't do all that, you still have all you need to succeed, because many have succeeded with less. Don't underestimate yourself. And I know sometimes that's harder to do. It's easier to say. I underestimate myself all the time. I do. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't. I do. I underestimate myself. I underestimate the powers and the skills that I have within me, the skills that I've learned, the skills I have that I still need to continue to cultivate. But, even within cultivating it, it is something that is there that that I know myself don't acknowledge the greatness of it, the greatness of it. But one day I will. One day I will. One day there will be no insecurities about certain things. And when it's not, oh, you best be well. You best be well. Be out of there. Anyway. Oh man, that was a reading, that was a rowing, and it was good. It was good. And SHILO did that thing. SHILO did that thing. We pushed through. We persevered through. So let's keep pushing. Let's keep pushing one day at a time, one book at a time, one sea of pages at a time, one episode at a time, one section at a time, one part at a time, one paragraph at a time, one sentence at a time, one word at a time, man, until we seek and find that treasure that awaits us. Till we seek and find what we can learn and grow from. And don't just find it, but apply it. Put it on, wear it, use it. Use it. Use it. Now, we worked our body, we worked our mind. Let's work our body one last time on the going out. Ooh, let's work our body on the last time, man. 25 things. 25 things. This is what I ask of you. 25 things. Get your ass up. If you have done it, if you did 25 things in the beginning and you do 25 things in the end, that's 50 things, man. That's 50 things you have done today. If you don't get off your ass and do nothing else, at least you have done 50 with me. So with me, though, I'm going to do, it's going to be 100 with me because I'm going to do 50. I'm going to do the same routine we did before. 25 and 25. I'm going to do 25 with the Shaolin monk shit and 25 push-ups. Because I'm the captain of the ship, baby. I'm the captain. I'm steering this damn thing, man. We're going to roll. We're going to roll. I got a destination I'm trying to get to. And you're going to come along from the ride. Come on. I welcome you. SHILO Hammer. Let's do it, man. 25 things. Ooh, 25. 25 shits. 25 things. Let's get it, man. 25 things. Man, you should be able to do what I'm about to do. Hey. It's almost like a jumping jack, except you're going opposite ways. One hand down, up. Other hand down, up. One hand down, up. Let's get it. 25 of them. 25 of them. Get out the way, child. Let's make some room. 25. Oh, man. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Let's get 25 push-ups. 25 of these things. Let's get them. 25 incline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Hurry up. 14, 15, 16, 17. Get up. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. That's 50 things. 50 things, big baby. 50 things. That make 100 for me. That make 100 for me. 100 for me. I hope you did your 25 things. And if you did more, great. If you did more, if you pushed yourself to do more, hey man, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Because that's what we're going to have to do anyway. Push ourselves. Push ourselves to be better, to do better. Ain't nobody going to do it for you. Ain't nobody going to make you better but you. Ain't nobody going to make you better but you. So let's do it. Let's get out there. Let's make it happen. We have all we need to succeed. Let's succeed. Succeed at little. Succeed at little and work your way up to succeeding at big. Shalom, shalom, Joshua, shalom. Succeed at little and work your way to succeeding at big. Push, 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 persevere. We have all we need. We have all we need, man. Yeah, so, hey, that concludes episode 5, part 5 of today's reading. That concludes it, man. Catch me out. Let's keep pushing through the book. The sea of pages that Mr. C.L.R. James has laid before us. The Black Jacobins. Catch me on the next time. On part 6, we'll pick back up. In chapter 2, the owners, we'll pick back up where we left off. In chapter 2, and the next one, yeah, we're going to make it to chapter 3 the next time. We're going to make it to chapter 3. I might come back later on today and just read those last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. I'll probably come back later. I'll see how I feel. I'll come back later. And the next one, we'll read the last 6 pages of chapter 2. And we'll get into chapter 3, Parliament and Property. As we keep making our way through the book. As we keep traversing the pages through the book, so we can go ahead and assassinate it. This is book 27. This will be book 27 once we're done. Assassinate the 27th book on the list, man. And then we get to something else. We'll get to something else, and we'll figure that out later. But let's go ahead and let's keep moving through this one. Let's keep moving through this one, man. I hope everybody has a wonderful day today, man. I appreciate everybody that stopped by, gave me a comment, gave me a like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your people. SHILO out here reading shit, doing shit. We learning shit, man. We trying to be better at everything we doing, man. Because we are the best. We out here, man. We the best. We just got to show it. We just got to show it. Show it, show it, show it. We out here. I'm out here. Until next time, man. SHILO out, man. Shalom. I hope y'all have a wonderful one. Be easy.